Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Seth.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Chris.
And on this episode, we thought we'd dive in and talk about the fifth and final season of Star Trek Discovery. As of this recording, we're only about 7 episodes in. And I haven't seen the 7th episode, but I'll talk a little bit about what's going on this season. So I won't be able to ruin the 7th episode for anybody or how the season ends yet. But there may be some spoiler warnings we need to put out there if you're not through at least episode 6 of Discovery. And I've got kind of a rant about that I want to go on. So season 5 starts off. There's this big mystery, and there's the character of Kovich, who's kind of like a mysterious character that works in some secret part of the Federation. That it's almost like a Section 31 type thing, but they never really call it Section 31, so we don't really know what his role is. But he reveals to the Star Trek Discovery crew that there is this technology that they need to recover. There's Kovich. Technology they need to recover that, if it falls into the wrong hands, could lead to the destruction of the galaxy or the species in the galaxy. And so it's meant to be a initially very mysterious thing. They won't tell them what it is. They just tell them where they have to go and recover it, kind of a thing, right? And so, of course, our intrepid crew of Discovery is not the only ones that are looking for this technology. Somehow these two couriers, and again, this is taking place in the 32nd century. So there's a thing called couriers, and this is Mal and Locke. And Mal is the woman on the right side of your screen. Locke is the alien on the left side. And those two find out about this somehow. And they decide that they're going to take it because they need it to secure their freedom from individuals that are after them for some sort of revenge for something they've done. So throughout the first 5 episodes, they're fighting with these two. Each one eventually gets the upper hand for a certain amount of time and gets the next clue to where this thing is. So they're following these clues. One clue leads to the next, and then somehow one group will get it and ruin the other guy's chance, and then they'll take off and they'll go find the next clue. But the guy that lost out that time always has some sort of a thread that brings him back to the race. And so throughout the whole thing, they're leapfrogging each other until we get to episode 5. We don't really know much about the background of Locke and Mal, but what we find out at about that time is that Mal's father was the same father that Cleveland Booker or Book, Sonequa Martin Green's character of Captain Burnham, that's her love interest. And we find out that his name, Cleveland Booker, was a name he took from a man he respected that was a father figure for him that turns out to be the father of Maul.
Oh,
And
shit.
so there's a whole sort of interaction that goes on between those two, because she hates her father because he abandoned her, kind of a thing, and he knows the father as this great man that was, you know, responsible for saving all these endangered species throughout the galaxy, kind of a thing. So those two are trying to come to terms with each other while fighting each other. And then we begin to learn about Locke. And so I'm going to be talking here. We find out that Locke is a Breen. And if let me pull this up here, because those of you that are Star Wars fans will recognize this species. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the species name right. It's I'm going to say Ubese. It's Ubese. And this is a race that is Princess Leia impersonated a specific Ubese by the name of Boushh when she snuck in to free Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt. The reason I bring that up is because the Breen, you'll notice the helmet on the Ubese here, the Breen have very similar types of helmets. And there's a lot of speculation that, you know, Star Trek did this kind of purposefully as sort of an homage or a little kickback to Star Wars, kind of a thing. But this is how we have seen the Breen throughout the Next Generation and DS9 eras. And so for what now, 25, 25 years, I don't know, some amount of time since those two episodes went off the air, this is how we know the Breen. And so their underlying appearance under the helmet has always been sort of enigmatic and mysterious. What do they really look like? Do they have, these big, mandibles or crocodile type jaws or muzzles, or how do they, what do they look like? And so that's for long time been a curiosity in the Star Trek world. Well, Discovery decided to reveal it, what they are, and it's rather disappointing, I'm afraid. So what they did, so again, these are what the Breen look like in the, 25th century during Star Trek Next Generation. Jump ahead to the 32nd century, and somehow their helmets look like this. You notice that they no longer have the big extended muzzle piece on them, right? Now they look more just like helmets with these speaker breathing apparatus on the front side. And so I'm like, okay, so they've substantially changed the look of the Breen now.
I mean, they can
not
evolve.
realizing
Style changes.
What's that?
Style changes. They can evolve.
Yes, true.
Bill, I want to just be clear here. So what you're saying is that you're upset with Star Trek for changing the look of a race drastically.
I could get behind this change, I think, but the reveal, I think, of what they look like under the mask.
That's what he's really upset about. It's not so much this, but we haven't seen what
it's
like
the reveal of what's under the mask. And so we find out this is how Locke and Maul met. And they were on a Breen ship, and she was, bringing them contraband or whatever it is that they wanted at the time. And that's how these two met. And so they ended up falling in love. And so she says, well, I don't even know what you really look like. So he pulls off his helmet, and I don't know if this captures it fully or not, but essentially, they basically look like lime jello over skulls, which I don't get the whole extended muzzle thing in the original helmets. I mean, there's no explanation for why. And this is their true appearance, but not the appearance that they normally show to outsiders. Normally, to outsiders, they present themselves looking like that. So somehow they're able to solidify their lime jello exteriors into solid faces. But again, no explanation for why the extended muzzle on the original helmets, and no, we don't understand anything about why that was or what change precipitated this new look. And it's all just sort of confusing and kind of a letdown, I think, for me. I don't know, Chris, I know you haven't seen the current season of Star Trek Discovery, but what are your thoughts as you hear this?
I guess given what I've historically seen with Discovery, I would have expected more effort into it. And so I guess I don't know if this is just because for it being a key part of the story, I guess.
Yeah.
In revealing what this is, I don't know from prior in any Star Trek whether they haven't historically revealed it.
No.
So it feels like a big missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a letdown.
And I'm kind of wondering if maybe it's because they were trying to save money on prosthetics, because building out a extended mandible maybe might. But I mean, that wouldn't see. We see all these weird races in Star Trek all the time with over the top prosthetics. Linus in Star Trek Discovery is a lizard faced guy, right? And I mean, they managed to do that pretty well, but so I don't know why they chose to go this route with it. It's just kind of perplexing to me when they could have done something a little bit more,
It's a bit bland. It's a bit boring. If you're going to compete with Star Wars, you have to go all out in defining these other races and creatures and make them unique, as opposed to something as boring as they did with that.
Right. Now there's Linus.
Even this here has a bit more effort than it's something unique about it. Yeah.
So I've watched a lot of Face Off. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
Where they, for those who are not, it's a competition between makeup artists and creating, ideally, very cool, but they should be functional as if going onto a movie, makeup and costumes. And anytime you extend forward that far, like even that Linus character you just showed, it's not a forward extension.
No.
It's they probably didn't have to go very far beyond the actual moving mouth and lips.
Sure.
But if you were to bring down the jaw for several episodes, not just short scenes, but actual emoting episodes, that is a whole other level of makeup artistry, and it's very challenging.
And so maybe that's why it was challenging and expensive to do it. And so they decided, well, let's just redesign the helmets and make them look more like everybody else.
I have a feeling there's going to be some book that says in some compendium or whatever, some companion that's going to explain because they're breathing, the technology was this, and then they went to that shape, but it was never about the structure. It was about what the mask did.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Seth?
I was going to say a good reason to make this change if you're going to be having a Breen and this other woman in a romantic relationship, just skip why you have to explain how they can do whatever if he's got a giant beak filled with teeth.
Yeah, right.
It just makes it a lot easier storytelling.
I suppose.
Yeah, a whole predator face is just like,
predator face.
These scars are when we kiss.
Yeah, or maybe you've got, I was envisioning in my mind that the Breen had like an alligator type mouth.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if it's part of the story that if he's part of a romantic relationship, it's
Yeah.
just easier to not get into all that and invite the internet into all that. Because there would be fan art. There would be a lot of very disturbing fan art.
But that would have made it even more interesting in my book.
You know, they people probably would have been okay if they just went the Predator route and just made it just like the Predator or something.
Well, I mean, that fan art already exists, Chris, but you're gonna have to Google it on your own.
Tell us,
no, thank you.
Bill. Tell us your rant about this.
Yeah, so this is my other rant. So this is how the 5th season of Discovery began, and what we see is this is like the initial encounter with Locke and Maul, and Burnham is trying to stop them from escaping, and so somehow she jumps onto their ship as it's going to warp. So we see her here on the outside of the ship. They're in the warp slipstream, a subspace. She's hanging onto the ship and trying to destroy the engines from on top of the ship. And the whole time she's out there, she's screaming, "Woohoo! I love this!" kind of a thing. And I'm like, what the holy fuck?
Pardon the strong language.
Yeah, but it's like, we've had a mutual friend on the show, Mark Kitchell, and Mark's been watching it, and we were talking on Friday night about Discovery, and we both were of the same opinion, is that it's like the characters in Discovery are sort of one-trick ponies, I guess, in a way, and that they don't really have they have like one purpose, like Stamets is the scientific engineer on the ship, and he's just constantly this always over the top disgruntled genius that figures everything out. Burnham is like an over the top emotional character.
Right.
We have the Doctor, that's an over the top emotional, sensitive counselor type, and he's always going up to somebody,
are you all right?
Are you all right? Your transformation from a human to a plant back to a human, that had to be terribly impactful to you psychologically. What's that, Seth?
It'd be so relaxing. I could spend a week as a plant.
Yeah, but I mean, it's almost like, yeah, but it's almost like these characters, you always know how they're going to be in any particular scene. The Stamets is always no matter what horrible thing is befalling, and everybody's like, oh my God, there's no way out. We're going to die. There's no way out. And then Stamets will always come and he'll be like, don't say that. It's like, if we do this, then I think we could do this, and this will solve it all, kind of a thing. And I don't know. It's just
they're all over the top.
It's kind of exhausting, I think, in a way. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, I mean, so Discovery to me, I haven't watched anywhere near as much as you guys, but it seems like Discovery really wanted to be, it wanted to merge a little bit of Roddenberry Star Trek with Abrams Star Trek.
Yeah.
And those just don't mesh too well, because Abrams Star Trek is all extreme Star Trek via way of extreme sports and lens flares, and none of the cerebral stuff that made Trek good.
Yeah.
And you can't have action heroes be Star Trek officers, really. At least not all of them. Your action hero is the captain. That's his role.
Yeah, right. And, in fairness to Discovery, I mean the cinematography and the visuals and the planetscapes and the way they design all that is just fantastic. It's a beautifully filmed show.
But how much of the production then goes into big action set pieces, big fights, choreography, special effects of like maybe think about maybe Strange New Worlds. How many big fights do they have on that in any given thing? Whereas almost all of the screen time is primarily about the interaction between the crew and whatever problem they're dealing with.
I think in Strange New Worlds you see a lot more interaction between the officers and a lot more range of the characters. And I think in fairness, the two shows are really quite different by intent, where Star Trek Discovery is a season-long episode arc or season-long arc, right?
Right.
Whereas Star Trek Strange New Worlds are individual standalone episodes. It's season-long character arcs, but episodic storytelling. In Strange New Worlds.
You can almost jump in anywhere.
Right. So
so that gives the characters a lot more ability to, you see different sides of them and based on the type of story you're trying to tell. And I think in Discovery, to my point, that season-long episode arc, you're trying to cram as much action into that season-long arc as you can that still moves the story towards its conclusion. And I think sometimes it just gets too much. But go ahead, Seth.
Like from a writing perspective, as you were saying, like Strange New Worlds and like Voyager, any of the past Star Treks really were all episodic. And so you would have your characters, and then we'd get to see how they react in these various extremely different situations.
Sure.
Whereas with Discovery, you've got, I'm pretty sure that the writers start with their idea for how the whole season's going to go, and then they have to slot characters in to where they fit. So you're not seeing them in reacting to different situations. You're seeing the character react to exactly the same type of situation because that's how they fit into the overall story.
Right.
So I would say that might be a weakness of the writers in that they came up with their season and what they wanted to happen in the season, but they aren't letting their characters drive that plot.
Right.
Like that's how you get character growth through a longer story, is like it's not a series of things happening to them and them reacting. It's you let the characters drive that and make the plot happen.
Yeah. And so this whole story, the thing that they're going after, relates back to a TNG episode, which was called The Chase, which involved an ancient race called the progenitors, that were the first form of life that existed in the galaxy. And in that episode, we find out that these progenitors, they arose into sentience. They began exploring space, but found no other races like their own. And so they eventually seeded a lot of these habitable planetary environments with DNA code that would eventually lead to the rise of all these humanoid life forms throughout the galaxy. And that's why in Star Trek you see so many similar type races, where you have the standard 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head kind of a configuration. That's what the progenitors look like. And so you seed all these planets with DNA. That DNA evolves over millions and billions of years. And so while we have a lot of differences in what the races look like from facial features and stuff, you've got the same arrangement of limbs and general body configuration. And that was Star Trek's way of explaining why they had so many humanoid-looking aliens in the series.
Reminded me of
something
Odo
like Star Wars.
from
What's
Deep
that?
Space Nine. The progenitor reminded me of Odo from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, very similar, right?
Yeah. It's important to have a lore reason to keep your special effects budget in check.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting. So they're looking for this machine or this information or whatever it is that explains how they managed to do all that they did, and so that's why there's this important race. But that lends to the whole critical nature and high stakes. Gotta get there now. We're right on the edge of disaster kind of episode storytelling throughout this season and through past seasons. So that's what makes it a lot different than Strange New Worlds, whereas you might have a really high stakes scene, a high stakes episode where you're in a life or death battle with an alien race like the Gorn, but then the next episode you've got Subspace Rhapsody where everybody's caught in a musical kind of a thing. So I think the Strange New Worlds, they have a lot more ability to give the characters more depth and range, and we see them in a lot more different situations. Discovery, they're always in a critical life or death thing throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
Over the top.
I would. Nothing would make me happier than if they got to the end of this season, and found the very important piece of information, get it back to Starfleet headquarters.
Yeah.
And once it's decoded, they find out it's nothing but progenitor family recipes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My deepest fear is that they're gonna find out whatever it is, and it's gonna be something enigmatic that's gonna require research to figure it out. And it'll be like that last scene in the original Indiana Jones where they're taking the Ark of the Covenant and it's going into a giant warehouse somewhere, Starfleet warehouse. We've got our top men working on this, and then we never hear of it again. I
mean, the nice thing about them being in the 32nd century is that they can do major, universe shaking things and change the paradigm. That's why I approve them actually taking it to the futures, because they can at least change stuff now and get away from canon.
Right.
And it's
and they're doing that. And since Discovery is ending the end of this season, who knows if we'll ever get back to the 32nd century again, right? So whatever they do, that may be the end of it from our perspective. So
I would like them to start going out and telling more of the story of what's happening after Picard, the state of that sort of stuff. Because I want to hear about it. I want more Captain Sisko. I want him to come out of the wormhole.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting. They could certainly do something like that, I suppose.
Sisko's one of my favorite captains.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how far you ever got with Discovery, but did you get to where they were in the 32nd century? Have you seen some of those episodes?
No, not yet.
Yeah. So when they get to the 32nd century, the Federation is pretty much almost non-existent.
Yeah.
There's only a few worlds that make it up, and it's they're hiding in a sort of a cloaked, protected region of space because there's so many threats out there that would want to take them out. And warp technology, dilithium crystals were all destroyed, and so many ships and worlds were destroyed that depended on dilithium technology. So it's basically everything's being rebuilt kind of from scratch. And the Discovery ship's kind of at the forefront of that because they have that spore drive that doesn't rely on dilithium technology. So that's kind of how that all gets started. But,
there's a future Michelle Yeoh movie. Yes.
Yeah. So that's something I'm really looking forward to is so one of the standout characters in Star Trek Discovery was Michelle Yeoh's character, Empress Georgiou, who came from the Mirror Universe, and they were going to originally do an entire Section 31 series starring her, but then she had the gall to go and earn an Oscar, and her prices went up so high that the series was now off the table. But they are doing a movie, and the movie, it's only going to be on Paramount Plus. It's not going to be released in theaters. So, but I'm looking forward to that. I think that's got a lot of potential to be very cool. The last time we saw her character, she went through the Guardian of Forever to be taken somewhere back in time, and so wherever she ends up, she somehow gets in charge or somehow involved with Section 31. So
she'll take over Section 31.
Yeah, she kind of did, actually, towards the end of her appearance in Discovery. She was already in Section 31, and the guy that was leading Section 31 was killed by an AI, and so then Michelle Yeoh and a couple of the other characters were trying to kill him, and they finally did. And then of course Discovery jumped to the future, and then Michelle Yeoh went back to the past, and we don't know where she ended up. So I'm assuming somehow she went back to the either the early era where Discovery came from, or maybe the next gen era. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find that out when the movie premieres. But looking forward to that.
Fun.
So. All right. Well, if you're watching Star Trek Discovery, if you're into season 5, or even if you haven't started it yet, let us know what you think down below of Star Trek Discovery or season 5 thus far. It'd be interesting to see if my thoughts, I guess, are tracking with other fans of the series so far. So look forward to seeing your comments. And anybody else have any last minute thoughts? No,
I'm a bit more intrigued to jump into it now. I am behind on it, but I have enjoyed what I've seen up to where I last left off. I have to go back and check that. But
yeah, it's an interesting season so far, and we see, they're visiting a lot of places that it's kind of like a farewell tour for a lot of scenes that we've seen or planets we've seen throughout the progression of Discovery. So that's kind of cool, and they're wrapping up a lot of character arcs, so it's kind of nice to see a lot of that happening. So I encourage people to go out there and check it out, and let us know what you think, as I said. So anyway, take care. We will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.